Jay, great to have you back on the show. And
Morning.
I do want to get your take on what you're hearing from your constituents around higher cost pressures and how lasting they could be.
Well, inflation clearly is here to throughout this year. I think we're going to see some higher prices. And a lot of that comes from the fact, Morgan, that we simply can't find the people that we need to make the goods that are very much in demand in this country right now. And then you add on top of that the blockade of the Ambassador Bridge, which slowed down our supply chain. All of these things are kind of mount to create these rising cost inflationary pressures.
The blockade, which has since been cleared, is that something that could have effects that last perhaps a little bit longer than what we've just seen in the near term? Or does it just speak in general to some of the supply chain bottlenecks that have been cropping up all over the globe?
You know, I think it actually speaks to a sense of absolute selfishness, to be very frank. We have spent the last 2 years in the manufacturing sector literally trying to save the world. As we produced PPE to keep people safe from the pandemic, we produced vaccines, we tried to keep people fed and clothed. And to see this kind of activity that would, frankly, disrupt the lives of those very people, those manufacturing workers and their families, and cause them economic harm, it's one of the most selfish things I've seen. So yes, it will create lasting damage. It created damage over the course of the last few days or weeks during this blockade because we couldn't get the component parts that we needed for so many of our products. If you don't have those products, if you're not able to produce those products, that's another factor in terms of inflation and rising costs, because demand has not eased, Morgan. As we all know, demand is very strong right now. People have a lot of money in savings accounts, but we don't have the goods to be able to provide to them. So that's economics 101. We all learned that in school, right? If you have high demand but low supply, prices are going to rise. And the fact that these folks that participated in the blockade added to that is frankly really disgusting.
Talk about supply chain too, because in addition to inflation, it's something we've talked a great deal about over the last year and a half. Seemed as though things were getting a bit better, let's call it towards the end of last year. Then Omicron came and it got worse again. So where do things stand from your perspective, and what are you hearing in terms of just the supply chain bottlenecks that we've all kind of been dealing with, or at least your constituents have been dealing with?
Yeah, the supply chain is very much still under stress right now. It is getting slightly better, and we will see improvements throughout the year. And again, when we see those improvements, price pressures will start to ease. But if you think about what causes these pressures, right? What causes the fact that we can't get the supply chain moving as efficiently as it once was? The number one concern is we can't find the workers that we need. And we've got the highest wage growth in our sector in 40 years. So obviously a job in manufacturing is a well-paid job. It's a very stable career. And we're just doing everything we can to attract as many folks into our sector.
Like what? So what are you doing? You've mentioned it a couple times. It's obviously foremost for you as a concern in terms of the shortage of labor. So what are you doing? What can be done? Perhaps it's not being done currently to encourage people to enter the workforce and get into manufacturing.
Yeah, we've got about 850,000 open jobs in manufacturing. And David, just to put that in perspective, pre-pandemic, we had about 500,000 open jobs. The problem then was that we simply weren't really able to, we had to redefine, or not redefine, but we had to explain what manufacturing was to folks. Today, people know what it is, but there's so much competition in every other sector. Every sector of the economy right now is under stress and needs workers. So we're competing against every other sector. And as I said, we've raised wages. We are in the recruiting business. It's going to take a while to get it back, but I'm really proud of a lot of our manufacturers for recognizing some of the things that are keeping folks from coming back into the workforce in any sector. One of those big issues is childcare. We have several manufacturers like Vermeer in Iowa that are actually having an on-site childcare facility to help working parents with that stress factor, especially during this pandemic. So those are the types of things you're seeing in manufacturing, and you're starting to see manufacturers do to attract more workers. And frankly, I'm excited about the future because I do think there are so many things that we can do that will help improve our country and keep us healthy and safe. But getting this worker shortage under control is certainly number one at the top of the list.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.